Hey guys, it's Holy Taboo, and I'm here for my second week Succession Aftermath video. So, and again, I know it's a little bit over 2 weeks, but we've had over a week now of the Tamer and the Valkyrie having theirs, so I'm going to put the video together to sort of say what you think, what the community's saying about it, and to be fair, what I think as well. I'm going to skip over the part where I say what Succession is, because if you don't know, go watch the first video. Yeah, what a plug. But let's be fair, you probably know by now. Just before I start, apologies, I do sound a bit bunged up because that's because I am. I've been dodging this horrible flu that's been going around. And I was hell-bent on making sure I get this video out today. So I do apologise if I sound a bit strange, but that is why. Anyway, so let's go into it. The Tamer, the puppy princess, the doggo queen. She's wicked. And she's one of the first characters that I really felt like I got quite a lot of understanding with their skill set. And admittedly, I remember the day when the Tamer Awakening came out, and in fact, I've got a video of it on the channel. And I was a little bit confused. It was still a good bit of kit, but again, I'd played so much, as we say now, pre-awakened Tamer. It felt strange to go on to the Awakening. Anyway, so here we are, obviously quite a while later, and the Succession is out. And again, the concept of this Succession is so you feel like you're going back to playing how you used to an extent. And in the background, this actually is me on my Tamer playing around with it. And I didn't have any skill points, so I couldn't do as much stuff. But some of the stuff is just so cool that you have available. And, it was really fun to play. I did enjoy it. So anyway, let's go into it. What do we say about it so far? So you have some pretty huge moves that you can do. Like the area on some of your moves are massive. And it seems that you have so much CC. So for a start, again, it does feel like the old style of Tamer, because again, the Tamer was just a nightmare for going and doing the Void Lightning spam. This is before, obviously, there was like the internal cooldown on it, and it would just CC for miles. And it's the same now, it's just got this huge CC range, so that's really cool. Now, of course, with that is a lot of damage on some of these moves, and I was leveling up just before using my normal skills, so this Tamer was only 56. And I was like, oh, things are taking forever. I was sort of regretting doing the leveling. When I got the Succession, I was like, this is mad, the damage, Yes, I only went to Cadbury's to test this here in the background, but it was just shredding through. It was crazy. So yeah, the damage, once again, is massive. It feels so nice, and again, there's range here. So for PvE, once again, we've got another Succession where the PvE is really good. I don't necessarily want to say crazy, but it is just better. Now, obviously, let's go back to, like I've said with other ones, there's always going to be some cons. In this case, the cons are quite simply, you're going to lose a little bit of mobility to start with, and protected mobility at that. So you still have, as you say, your WW, so your evasion moves with the iframe on. But the thing that you're really going to notice is like the leaves fall. I think it's called leaves falling. It's been so long now. So in your Awakening, your little sidewards dashes, as well as when you hop up onto the, your stick and go flying. I can't remember what that's called now. Again, it's like the jump. But you're going to lose that. So you lose that engage, and then, there's the iframes that go with some of these things. And that is quite important when you're doing the PvP side. So again, you're going to get this trade-off of very high damage versus, the mobility to an extent, and more the protected mobility, even though, you still have, like I said, your evasion moves. One of the things that you are going to lose, which is going to suck for a lot of Tamers, is your 100% Awakening ulti, as I'm sure all Tamers love to do in Node Wars. You flag up to show you that you want all the rage. You get fed rage, jump in, and you wipe out a team with your army of doggos. You are going to lose that, so that is going to be a trade-off. Now, one of the things that I've seen so far is that this kit for the Succession is amazing on a horseback, of course, because, what a surprise, you've got all that mobility, you're not going to get knocked off or anything like that. It's pretty cool for that. Also, there's probably a way you could go into a big DP build and, DP evasion, whatever, and going just as a CC bot. Now, for some people, they won't find that interesting at all, because let's be fair, that's might not be what they wanted to play the Tamer for, but it's different. You could definitely do that. You could go in and you could just be a CC machine. The other thing, which is, again, I suppose it's a small quality of life, it's not an improvement, it's a loss here, is that you no longer will have the Q block. So, in the Awakening, you could put your big bow staff across you, and that was a frontal guard. You don't have that anymore, so you've got to go back to blocking with moves or evading. So it is, to be fair, as Cacao said, it really is getting brought back to what it was like in the original days, and for some people they will like it, to be fair. And this is where it's going to fall again. And I think from what I've seen, most of the PvPers are pretty much going to stick with Awakening from what I see. And again, you know, I'm not a high leveled or high geared tamer or anything like that, so I couldn't tell you. But just from what the people I've spoke to, I think they like having the Awakening ulti too much. They like having that mobility. They like having that kit. And obviously the succession in this case means they don't have that kit. So it is worth keeping in mind. I think, again, it's split kind of in the community again. I'm seeing a trend. It's going to be another succession which is better for PvE, you know, these big damage, big areas to, you know, and obviously the big damage on those big area spells, but with a lack of, or a loss of mobility and protective mobility at that. So that is a trade-off. So to do the pros and cons list, as we've said before, the pros, you're going to have more CC. You are quite literally have some bigger AoE moves that pump out some crazy damage. And obviously with that bigger AoE, I do mean bigger ranged as well, not just in the damage numbers, which is really nice. And it does feel like you're playing an old Tamer again, which for some people will be amazing. I know for me when I was doing it, it was almost like I fell back in love. It was fantastic. It was such a good class to play on. So let's go to what you're going to lose. You know, you are going to lose some of your iframes, assuming gap closers. Moonlight was that other gap closer that I was thinking of, which you're going to lose. You don't have your flying over one. You don't have your sideward dashes as well, and you don't have your ulti, and that's going to be a big thing. And I should say the Q blocks. I know a lot of people like the Q block, but not having that ulti is going to be a bit of a pain for some people, and that's going to be a bit of a big change to how they play the game. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're looking at this class going forward. So yeah. Personally, I think it's really good. I liked it. It's fun. I know it's not going to be what all people want. But again, I want to say it's 50-50 on this one. I think there's probably more people who aren't as happy with this one as with the other two that I've spoke about. That's just my opinion. I think they're happy that it's PvE, but I think the PvP side of it, it seems like a lot weak. No, I don't want to say weaker because the damage is there, but you know, it seems like they've lost probably more than what they'd really want to, and obviously losing that 100% ulti with the army of doggos all-round spinner type thing, the Awaken one, that's going to hurt. So yeah, that's my view on the Tamer thus far. So now to the Valkyrie, and I'm just about holding my voice together while trying not to sneeze or cough down the microphone, so let's see what we can do here. So the Valkyrie, once again, like every other succession, has ditched her big lance now and has gone back to the sword and board look. And from what I've seen from a lot of people, she is doing quite well. There are a few sort of mixed feelings again, but hey, I think this is just going to be a common thing throughout every succession now. I think we just got to sort of understand that's going to be the case. So let's have a look at what she has and what she doesn't have now. So from what I've heard, and I have to say this is not from my personal playing it. In fact, the clip at the background was donated by Endar from the guild, so thank you, I appreciate that. But the main feeling is she's going to feel probably more like a skirmisher now going forward, rather than in the current meta. In the old meta with the Awakening, the Valkyrie would, she was pretty much known for doing a big suck, bringing everyone in, and then jumping from the sky and wiping people out. So sort of like, I don't want to even say a CC, but that's not even fair, because she used to do good damage too, but not necessarily as protected. It's a bit strange to say, as in your moves necessarily weren't protected, but you had some big skills to rely on. So with the succession now, you have more skills that have like shorter movements, which means for like skirmishing for 1v1s, you're going to feel much better. So a good example of this, I got told again by Valkyrie in the guild, that they felt that fighting against other grab classes, you'd be in a better position because you had these shorter movements which were protected, which made it feel safer. But when it came to a big gap closer, so if you're against someone who's range, or say like take a succession ranger and archer, it would feel less comfortable because you no longer had that big gap closing capability. So that's something to be interested in. As far as the protected skills as well, it's nice to say that a lot of these have some nice down attack modifiers on. So if you look at Star's End, you can now do the easy mode rotation, which is going to kill the crystals, and using your down attack skills to kill the mobs around the crystals. So that's something which is going to be a quality of life for a lot more people. The Valk to this extent has more CC then. So, and the fact that you have those down attacks means it's going to be better at places. I said, I don't say Stars End, and I'll get into that in a bit, but if you take Ackman is now going to be a walk in the park because you'll knock things down, and you've got all your moves that have got these great CC down smashes on, down attacks. Oh, you can see I'm slowly dying here, and I refuse to try and record this in more than 2 goes, so you're going to have to bear with me, I apologise. But yeah, so the Valk is going to be a lot easier to grind with in most places. Now, it's a bit strange because, again, the Valkyrie that has been speaking to me about it has said that actually at Star's End they feel like Succession is slightly worse, and they reckon it'll be the same with the Abyssal as well, or Skyria, however it's pronounced. And I think a lot of that is just because of the maybe the nuke potential as well. And realistically, they didn't rely on those sort of down attacks before, which they can have now. So realistically, maybe for the higher end spots, you might see some Valks actually preferring to stick with the Awakening rather than going over to the Succession. But it'd be interesting to hear what some of you guys feel about that. So, in general, what can we say about it? The Awakening seems to be more about doing the big groups, big ultis, and and if you think about that in a fight as well, you're going to be going in with the Awakening sort of with a big group of players as such. You're looking for those big team fights. The feel for the Succession is like I said, you're a skirmisher now, so you want to pick those little sort of 1v1s, 2v1s at the side, 1v2s even at the side, because you're going to be really good at that. You've got the protection, you've got those small bits of movement. Now, that is important. In the Succession, you have smaller bursts of movement as such, where in the Awakening, you've got these bigger gap closers, so you're going to miss that. So with that in mind as well, the Awakening probably does hit harder. With the skills here, like slower but bigger hitting skills, and in theory is more mobile. So I did say that the Succession has more but smaller movements and protected, but as far as the mobility goes, you're going to lose that with the Awakening. That is where you had that all. So again, the style towards it is going to be more sort of like go in, get your kill, get out, rather than as it is now, it's sort of all in, balls to the wall, let's go, bang, 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 you're in. So you're going to miss out. If you enjoy being that role and, being sort of like the, oh God, he's coming in, run, you probably want to go and stick with the Awakening. So again, an easy one. And you know what? I don't even know why I'm saying this anymore, because I've got a funny feeling this is going to be the same for everything. It does seem fairly split. Now, I think it will go down to where your gear is. If I'm being completely honest, I think if you're slightly lower geared, I'm going to guess for grinding, Succession is going to be the way forward. As soon as you get to a higher gear amount, you're probably going to want to go to those higher end game spots where the Awakening might just pull ahead. Now, again, I can't say that personally, and the numbers that I've seen from the Valkyrie in the guild, and he is very geared. He is in that high end spot. He prefers to be in the Awakening for end grinding. So, that's fair play. So let's put our list up again of the pros and cons. So our pros here, you have more protected shorter movements. You have more protected skills that have good damage modifiers, which leads on to the next point. Because you've got the CC with those modifiers as well, you're going to do so much better at places like Ackman, which is going to make that an easier place to go to for I call it like the entrance of endgame grinding. So that'll be really nice there. And it is easier to grind in general. The cons, though, for, you're losing that gap closing mobility. So if you're going to get kited a lot more easier. So you've got to be aware of that. No more sucking. I've got to put it. Valk was fantastic at sucking. It sounds awful, but hey, we can always put an innuendo while we're here. A potential warning here on this one, because again, I've not 100% confirmed it, but it would seem that a lot of high-end spots, like the higher-end spots, you might actually be better in the Awakening rather than Succession, so keep that in mind. And you are going to lose some ability. Now, on overall, again with this class, and it's going to be the same with the Tamer as well, it feels like the Awakening, you've got more tools and more kit to use, so it's in theory it's going to be more skilled. And I think I said the same with the Ranger and the one. In fact, I've said for all four now. So just keep that in mind. If you're going, there's nothing wrong with it, and in fact I think it's quite good because it gives people options. If you want to have that bigger toolkit to use, you'll probably outperform the Succession. But the Succession is, I don't want to say easier, that sounds awful, but it's a bit more fluid, so it's easier to get behind. I'm saying it anyway, I've got to. It's the best word for it. So there you go. That is the Valkyrie in a nutshell, according to me and some other people. So this might look familiar if you've watched the other video, because actually most of the wording here is exactly the same, I hate to say. I nearly took this out, but there are a few sort of differences. So the sweeping statement here that both classes so far have been brought PvE to top tier. Again, I've kept that in because now the Tamer's had all this massive damage with the succession and the huge areas. It can do amazing in PvE. The Valkyrie as well with the succession, being able to do Ackman now like it's nothing and just sneeze through it, is fantastic. Now keep in mind, she was always top tier at places like Star's End. In fact, I still think, I believe until Succession came out, it's still a Valkyrie that had the record for the most trash per hour. So keep that in mind as well. So where I said obviously here that both classes have been brought to the top of PvE as in tier wise, the Valkyrie was kind of up there with Star's End, which is probably why you see with her Succession that it's not as good as the Awakening, because as far as, let's be fair, we're concerned, it is, or it already was in that position. So let's move on to the next point. Again, as I said, let's have a look, that both classes have trade-offs, and that's always going to be, it's always going to be the case, I think, with Succession. Now we've seen this thing of you're going to lose the mobility basically for damage. So if you prefer to play the class and potentially play your class a bit simpler than what you have to do at the moment with switching between the two, Awakening and pre-Awakening, that's, you know, that's just what it's going to be now. So yeah, keep in mind. Now I've put this in here again, and I said it may cause gaps between the classes. It has started to see it. I've seen so many, I don't want to say complaints or QQing as such, because it is a relatively good statement. There's people with some huge gear at the moment who are just getting smashed by people with Succession, especially when they're on equal gear levels. So this gap is starting. Now, it's probably lucky that this is happening just by Christmas, because there won't be so many people doing the PvP scene as much, but it's worth keeping that in mind. And again, it's the main thing, both Successions haven't made anything redundant. The Awakenings are still there and still viable. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking because I need some medication and hopefully going to get a bit of sleep so I can try and get some stuff ready for the next video. Thank you so much for watching again. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you all know this. But yes, please like and subscribe. It makes everything so much better for me when you do. So anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day. And you know what? I'm hoping to get something out before Christmas. But if I don't, Merry Christmas and have a fantastic holiday. Take care, guys. Bye.